Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View, Ladies Tea. Before we get started tonight, let's talk about something. Last time I checked, we were supposed to live in the United States of America, a place that has stood since our inception as a beacon of hope and freedom for those around the world facing tyranny, communism, and oppression. But now it feels like we ourselves are living under tyranny, communism, and oppression. How can you say you live in a free country when your freedom to protest, if you happen to be on one side of the political aisle, is under attack? How can you say you live in a free country when your freedom of speech is obviously under attack? How can you say you live in a free country when the very institutions that are supposed to be there to serve and protect you are weaponized against you? That is exactly what we see happening to our 45th president, my father-in-law, Donald J. Trump. Make no mistake, we see it playing out right now with the Manhattan DA, and it has absolutely nothing to do with justice, truth, or protecting the people. It, of course, has everything to do with politics and control. We've all seen this show before. We saw it with Russiagate. We saw it with the phone call to Ukraine. We saw it with January 6th. Heck, they even had to criticize how Donald Trump, don't forget, threw breadcrumbs into a koi pond with the Japanese prime minister. The truth is that since the day that a political outsider and businessman came down the golden escalator in Trump Tower and announced he was running for president of the United States, the establishment knew that the jig was up. They had to do any and everything possible, including indicting someone they knew was guilty of no crime, to protect their way of life in the swamp. The end goal, of course, is not to prosecute Donald Trump. The end goal is to prevent him from ever being elected as president of the United States again, and to send a warning shot to anyone else who dares challenge the deep state and their globalist agenda in the future. Don't even try it. But I digress. Joining us tonight, please welcome Turning Point contributor Erin Elmore and PragerU's Jill Simonian. Erin and Jill, welcome to the show. Erin's been on many times. Jill, we love PragerU.
Yeah.
We love everything. Yeah. We love everything you guys are doing over there. I mean, you're really keeping it real. And you're really keeping us up to date on things. And I just want to give you guys a big shout out and encourage anyone, by the way, who hasn't checked out PragerU, you got to do it because you guys are so awesome. So thank you for joining us and welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm going to cry. You're going to make me cry in the first 10 seconds. Thank you.
We love it. We love it. Well, ladies, let's go ahead and jump right in here, shall we? We have had some interesting things happening in Manhattan. A lot of people think about New York City right now. They think about, people being pushed in front of subway trains. They think about a homeless crisis. They think about, crime going through the roof. People just kind of going into a Dwayne Reed pharmacy, taking things, walking out, heck, going into a Louis Vuitton and taking things and just walking out, no repercussions, sort of a free-for-all, lawless society there. And then you have the district attorney, Alvin Bragg, who hasn't been in office too long, but he is obviously trying to make a name for himself. He obviously has felt a lot of pressure. And there has been a, situation, shall we say, between Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, and my father-in-law, the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. Obviously, people have been talking about this kind of for the past over the weekend and today, yesterday. This has been a very big deal in America. And I think rightly so, Erin. When you look at what they are suggesting here and the stretch that they're attempting to make to indict, first of all, a former president of the United States, never happened before, to suggest that an NDA that signing an NDA and some sort of a contract, which happens in America, I'm going to argue tens of thousands of times a day in the United States, is somehow they're trying to say this was some sort of an issue of campaign finance. The truth is, they know there is nothing there. The truth is, they have had the ability to comb through tens of millions, I think it's 10 million actually, documents from the Trump Organization over the last 6 years, and they found nothing. So they went back to this and they said, maybe this is a way we can sling a little more mud at Donald Trump. Because I think the bottom line here is, although they know there is nothing that will actually come from this whole show and this whole charade, their attempt is, we don't want Donald Trump to be able to run for president again and win. And I think at the end of the day, that is what this is all about. No?
I think it's about a lot of things. I think it's about Trump derangement syndrome and these people that want to make their name by taking down the president. The difference between, we hear about Letitia James. She is a federal prosecutor in New York, and this is Alvin Bragg, who is the district attorney for the state. So we got a state system and a federal system. So there are a lot of problems here. He is a George Soros district attorney, and he has let people who have committed several murders, rapes, terrible crimes, and recidivism just walk free without bail or reduce their felonies to misdemeanors before trial. So the fact that he's going to go guns blazing on President Trump for basically a private contract is laughable and terrifying, especially when you juxtapose that with what we know about the Biden crime family. We just saw that there were payments from the Chinese Communist Party essentially to several members of the Biden family. We know that Hunter lied on a firearms application. So it just doesn't seem that we're living in a country that has one unified system of justice. And additionally, their star witness for this case would be Michael Cohen, who already lied to Congress. So his credibility as a witness is very weak. His impeachability on the stand is very high. So this is all around sad, but I have one point that we've got to tell the president. If they try to perp walk him and put him in cuffs and take a mugshot, he should start signing and autographing those mugshots for people to buy. I would buy and frame one and put it in my house. Let's turn this around on them. Let's make them look like idiots that we're saying, oh my God, President Trump is such a rock star. I have an autographed copy of the mugshot, because then we're just laughing in their face.
Well, and honestly, Jill, I think Erin's point is very valid. And I think the attempt to disqualify Donald Trump in some way from running for president, or to have people think, oh, well, there's no way I could vote for a guy like this. Look at what's happened in New York City with him. I actually anticipate that what will happen will be the opposite of their intended effect. I think what they are doing by it's almost like a martyring situation here with my father-in-law, because you'd be hard pressed to convince a lot of people that anyone has fought harder and given up more for the United States of America and taken more crap, quite frankly, than Donald J. Trump. I mean, from the day he came down the escalator till right now today, there is no one who has put more on the line, had more pain inflicted upon them, and yet said, I don't care about that. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep fighting for the American people. I don't know. I just tend to think that Americans look at this and they say, wow, if this is what could happen to arguably one of the most powerful people, at least at one time in the world, what could they ultimately do to me? And Americans do not like that.
Yeah, it's super scary. I mean, that's the only way I know how to say it. Super, super terrifying and scary for all of us. And I got to tell you, full disclosure, prior to the last few years, I never, ever considered myself a political person. I knew what was going on. I paid attention. I always voted, but I never considered myself a political person because in my perception, politics was out there. It was dirty. It was out there. It's away from me. But now, and I think, anyone who is a parent right now, we see that politics, dirty, dirty politics like this, like the DOJ being weaponized towards people like Donald Trump, but also weaponized towards all of us. Yeah. The DOJ cited parents as domestic terrorists. And now these dirty politics are in our homes. They are in our lives. It is in our schools. And it's super terrifying. And anyone who cares about America remaining a democratic republic should be very alarmed about this. And it goes to show that when the truth is told, because, no matter what anyone felt about President Donald Trump, when the truth is told, he told the truth and lifted the veil on so much. And people, especially our government, as we can see now, does not like to hear the truth. And so this is, if anything, it is a wake-up call to all of us and myself as a mom that dirty politics is in fact in our lives. And we need to move forward with our eyes wide open.
Gosh, it's so true. And Erin, you brought them up. What about the Bidens? When do they have their day? How much more evidence do we need? How much more solid, credible evidence can come forward and yet nothing happen about it? And I think that's another problem for a lot of people. Look, you've got Joe Biden in the White House as the president of the United States, as insane as that is, because this guy most of the time doesn't even realize he's on planet Earth, doesn't know where he is, doesn't know what's going on. And yet this is supposed to be our commander in chief and the most powerful man in the world. But there has been so much to come out so far about this family, and especially their ties to China. And at a time like we're in right now, it is very, very scary, I think, additionally, to see what's happening to my father-in-law and simultaneously see what's happening, or I guess not happening, with the Biden family. Do you think anything will ever come of what we've seen, at least come forward so far about this family? Do you think we'll ever see them perp walked in any way? But because I think a lot of people look at it and they say, never are we going to see that day. And that is not how America was designed.
I mean, I have a very pessimistic outlook right now, unfortunately, but I would hope that with the treasure trove of information that was discovered on Hunter Biden's laptop, instead of him suing the gentleman who owned the laptop store, we see this Delaware investigation pull through with something to put him behind bars. He has committed crime after crime. He's also such a moral hazard. And by the way, am I wrong? Did Bill Clinton not pay off Paula Jones in some sort of contractual agreement?
I believe it was in the neighborhood of $800,000, by the way. Yes.
But why don't we see anything happening with these situations? Where is, in my world, the legal precedent, right? Mm-hmm. We don't see any of that happening. We just jump to Donald Trump and trying to just vilify him. And by the way, I don't think we've really touched on this element. If things go to trial or move forward with President Trump, I think that just secures him the White House next time around, because people, unless you're the true people that hate Donald Trump, but the people that are just in the middle or kind of paying attention, wait a minute, what's going on here? This is what happens in banana republics. This is what happens in communist countries. Mm-hmm. So many liberal Americans talk about how evil Russia is. When you see things like this happening, seems kind of similar to me.
Yeah. It is. It's really frightening. And I mean, it's no surprise, by the way, that this is all taking place in the liberal bastion of New York City. Yeah. I mean, you think you're going to get a fair trial in a place like New York City? You think you're going to get a fair judge? Do you think you're going to get a fair grand jury? Absolutely not. You're getting nothing fair. I mean, the legal system is just so precarious at this point, I think, to so many people, and they don't trust it. And if you don't trust it, how can you believe in your country? And this sort of thing, I think, just further goes to alarm people, and rightly so. But I believe it was Elon Musk who tweeted the other day, if they move forward on this, they're putting Donald Trump in the White House. So you know what? It's going to be, they're going to have a really big problem on their hands, I think. And I don't think they kind of assess this situation as maybe they should have. But I digress, and I hate to get off of this topic, but I just want to put out a PSA, a public service announcement. Canadian doctors want to just make sure that if you are a trans woman, that you should talk to your doctor, wait for it, Jill, about getting screened for cervical cancer. So let me say this again. If you are a man who assumes the identity of a woman and you have not been born with a cervix, because also a PSA, men do not have a cervix, yet the Canadian Cancer Society is making sure that trans women know that they need to get screened for cervical cancer. I don't know, but it seems a little much. How can one be screened for something they do not have?
I have no idea, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You could probably hear me laughing. Anyone who's watching can probably see me laughing. If you're listening, I don't know if you could hear me trying to hold my laughter back. I hate to laugh about this because but I literally don't know what else to do at this point.
Sometimes it's the only thing you can do.
It's the only thing you can do. I laugh because it is completely absurd. We are living in an altered state of reality. We are not living in reality. After the last State of the Union address, I think it was Sarah Huckabee Sanders that said there is reality and then there is crazy. I think it might have been her, but that is what we're living in now. And until parents, I always put this back on us moms and parents, because from my perspective, all of this nonsense is being perpetuated and growing legs and arms and all sorts of ugly things in our schools. This transgendered ideology is brought into the schools at such a young age, and in many of our schools, parents who are operating in reality are too scared to speak up about all of these transgender issues being forced onto kids, non-binary, binary, name it, it's there. And when we stop speaking up for truth in the most basic situations as our schools, when it's concerning our children, that's when it grows legs. And now we see the entire medical profession being hijacked by this woke ideology. We see misguided high school students who have been completely brainwashed, now misguided. Now they see guidelines like this saying, oh, transgender women should be screened for cervical cancer. Well, that makes sense because in school they taught me X, Y, Z. I mean, this is until all of us parents really stand up at the most basic level in our children's schools, in our communities, and say, stop, this is not real. None of this is going to stop. We're going to continue to see our medical institutions hijacked. And my husband's a surgeon. My husband will tell you the exact same thing. He says the entire medical profession has been hijacked, and it's a money grab.
It's crazy. Erin, at this point, it's crazy. Don't forget, Erin, to get screened for prostate cancer, by the way, while you're at it, because that's where we are.
I have large prostate. But you know what I was thinking from a common sense perspective? In Canada, they have socialized medicine, right?
That's true. Good point.
So to get into a doctor takes a really long time. To get your screenings and to get the results back takes a very long time. What if there is a woman that is at high risk, a biological woman, born a woman, who is at high risk for cervical cancer? She can't get into the doctor. She can't get her lab results. She can't get these tests done because these hospitals and doctors that are so woke are bogging down their already broken system with these sort of virtue signaling ideologies. And that's a real problem too. They're removing women from the dialogue. We are not women who give birth. We are birthing. We are not mothers. We are birthing people. We don't breastfeed. We chest feed. You see men in advertisements for feminine hygiene products. Like, we are living in a world where the future is not female. We have boys competing in girls' sports. It's erasing women and making us feel less than. So we're all beaten down as a society and feel that we have no value.
They argue that it is called a neo-cervix, that if you have bottom surgery, this whole PSA was to make sure that anyone who's had bottom surgery and they have formed a vagina and cervix out of other tissue should get screened. Here's the thing. You can literally develop cancer on any cell in your body, on anything in your whole body. So this is no different. But the fact that they have to call it a cervical cancer screening, I think that's a problem. But it kind of brings me to my next point, which is that apparently there are thousands of people who believe that there are aliens on this planet. And whenever I dug a little deeper, it's so true. They identify as starseeds is what they call themselves. And they believe they came to Earth from another planet to save humanity. Man, do we need that right now? Like, if that's a real thing, I'm all for it. And I kind of feel like I'm the crazy person and maybe I'm an alien at certain times.
Yeah.
But what happened is there were several psychologists who said, what is going on with all these people saying they're aliens? Let's look into it. And what they found is that it comes down to personality and mental disorders. And wait for this, they say these individuals feel a lack of belonging and need a sense of purpose. Sometimes they are schizophrenic, though. Well, the schizophrenic thing I don't think surprises anybody. But to go back to these individuals feel a lack of belonging and need a sense of purpose. I think that, Jill, to go back to your point about the schools with kids, this sort of thing, identifying as an alien, is not that much different than identifying as a different gender. Oftentimes, I think what's going on in these schools is that the kids really don't fit in anywhere. They don't have, they're not popular. They don't have their niche. They don't have their group there in school, and they're feeling a little isolated and left out. But hey, if I come out and say I'm X, Y, and Z, or I'm identifying this way, I'm championed, I'm a hero, I'm applauded, and all of a sudden I'm getting a lot of attention. I don't know, the alien thing kind of struck me a little bit the same way.
It is. And I do think, I completely agree with you. It is the same thing. It's that attention thing. But then also, as I'm sure, many of your viewers and listeners know, in many states, there are directives, very specific directives from the State Department of Education towards teachers and educators and administrators that direct them to affirm. I mean, there's that word,
right.
Affirm. We see it all over the place now. They direct them to affirm whatever the child says. And it is so damaging. And you cannot affirm every single thing a child says. Any reasonable person knows that, because children are children. And yes, at times they are going to feel out of place, and they are going to feel out of their body, and they are going to be confused, or they are going to be sad one day. And you cannot affirm every nonsensical thing that a child may invent to either get attention or get empathy or get a little bit more support that maybe they are lacking at home. You can't do that. It's bad parenting, and it's child abuse. And that is what's happening. We have normalized complex mental issues in children, and those mental issues are not being dealt with in the healthy, positive, proactive way that they should be, to avoid serious situations like people considering themselves aliens, as we're saying now.
Well, but the crazy thing is, in the schools though too, Jill, they don't have to tell the parents. In a lot of these blue states and cities, they don't even have to tell the parents. They can just start using a different pronoun for a kid, or calling the kid a totally different name, and never notify the parent of that child that this is happening. And I mean, that is very frightening. The parents should always be in charge. They should always know. I mean, we are the best. We want to do the best for our kids, and we are the people who ultimately should be making those decisions, not a school, not a teacher, not a principal, not a school board. The parents are the ones who should be making these decisions, of course. Erin, if you're wondering if you are an alien, here's some questions that I'm going to ask you, and you could just yes or no these questions. Do you search your life for purpose? Maybe. I don't know. Do you feel more mature than others? I mean, how often, how many times a day? Pretty much all the time.
No, I don't.
Do you constantly feel unmotivated? Do you have no passions? As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to say maybe half of the world now that could answer these questions in the affirmative and say that they're aliens. But yeah. I don't know. Maybe we need some aliens now to save humanity. I'm for it.
We need two things. We need people to stop going to so much therapy and thinking their every single thought and emotion is important and valid. We've learned that from Meghan and Harry that, moved from across the pond. Every single emotion, they've been so over therapized, if that's a word, that you begin to think your every feeling has a deep, important meaning that you need to share with others. We also need to have parents that don't kowtow to their children constantly. If my kid, first of all, my kid tried to tell me that he was stressed out the other day. I said, you are 9, you live in a place that has 80-degree weather 90% of the time, and it never rains. I said, there are 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds in lithium mines in Africa to make these batteries for cars. I said, your dad and I got up at 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work. You're not stressed out. And if he then said to me, you're an alien, I would get that little cup from 23andMe, have him do the spit, 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 and I'd be like, you know what you are? You're from Italy and Russia and Ireland. There aren't any sort of alien history. There's your great, great, great grandma Patty from such and such. Ain't no aliens in this family. Move on to the next thing.
Thank you.
There we go. There we go. Erin Elmore coming in hot. I love that. It's really
climate.
Yeah, it's really true though. The fact that we are affirming, Jill, like you said, not just with the kids at school, but with cervical cancer screenings, with telling people, maybe you're starseed, maybe you're an alien. What kind of crazy world are we living in, and where are we headed? Quite frankly, if this is the kind of nonsense that people are spending their time doing, what about getting a job? What about going to work? How about making this a better place to live for future generations? What are we doing with all of this? This is the kind of thing I look at and I'm like, all right, well, if this is where we are now in 2023, what the heck is it going to be like when my kids are my age? God willing, we still have a country, to leave to them at that point. I don't even know. That's the fear I have.
Yeah, and it's a very real fear, and I don't think it's far-fetched at all. When I drove my kids this morning, we were having a conversation about being smart and being stupid. I hope it's okay. I'm not trying to be, offensive or anything to anyone. I don't think any of your audience is going to take offense.
No one gets offended by this show, believe me. And liberals love it. Go ahead.
It's the first time I'm on. So I was having a conversation with my kids about being smart and being stupid. And I jokingly told them, but also half serious, I said, I talked about you need to learn how to think. When someone tells you something, you have to really think about it and use what you know to make a decision. But I also said that everyone on their phones is making the world stupider. I said, everyone is getting more and more and more stupid, where pretty soon, girls, we're going to get to a point where someone says, hey, how are you? And someone's going to turn around and say, I don't know. My phone hasn't told me yet.
Oh,
that's true. Where we're heading. Mm-hmm. And it's starting now. And I don't think this is hyperbole that, where we're heading to a very dangerous place.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I try to keep my kids away from all screens, but it's impossible these days because, you go out to a restaurant, and actually yesterday, my husband and I were out at dinner, and I looked around, and adults, I mean, we're the worst offenders. There were tables of people. Everyone is looking down at their phones, and I was like, God, this is really sick and really kind of frightening. I don't know what this means, but obviously we were not made to look at screens all day, and it's a frightening thing. I do want to bring up something else about kids though. You both have kids. Are either of your kids allergic to anything? Erin, is Royce allergic to anything?
Heck no.
No. How about you, Jill?
No, not us. No.
Oh, see, this is very unusual though, because I feel like there's so many kids. There's been apparently a threefold increase in the past several decades of course, of peanut allergies. Like my daughter in her class last year couldn't bring anything to school that had nuts in it, any kind of nut butter, nothing, because there was a kid who was very allergic to peanuts in that class. And obviously it's become a big problem. Something I heard, and apparently scientists have confirmed this, is that you can drastically cut the risk of your kids becoming allergic to peanuts by giving them a little bit of peanut butter, like introducing it between 4 and 6 months old. Now, I did this for my kids because I had heard this, and apparently this is true. Now, neither of my kids are allergic to peanuts, thank goodness, or as far as I know, anything. The peanuts would have been a problem because peanut butter, Erin may know this about me, Jill, this is news to you, is a big staple in my diet. As much peanut butter as I could possibly get, I'm all about it. And had I had to cut out the peanut butter, we would have had to bubble wrap or something, one of my kids. I don't know what ultimately would have happened, but it cuts the risk of them developing this allergy by 77%. So I feel like, talk about PSAs, we need to get this out there, because it doesn't it feel, am I crazy? Does it feel like every kid, you have to ask if somebody has an allergy, or I get nervous if you have a birthday party, what's going on? Erin, I'm sure you've experienced this in some respect, right? Like this is all that's going on. Everybody's allergic to things.
You know what's funny? Moving from a blue state to a red state, I have honestly noticed that there are far fewer kids with allergies. I have my theories about why. I think there are some psychological components, perhaps.
Very
And I also
interesting.
have another one that would probably get you banned off YouTube. So I'm not going to bring it up. But there are things.
Wouldn't be our first time, by the way. That's fine.
Yeah. There are things that people are doing to their bodies and to their children's bodies that weren't done in 1983 on such a level that they're done now that I think could be. I'm not a scientist. I am not a doctor. But there are all of these things happening that we have to ask why. And I highly doubt that it's climate change.
Yeah, well, it's so true. And by the way, I'll just throw this out there. So, you know, we talk a lot about China. Obviously, we now know, Jill, that COVID came from China, came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, was a man-made virus. And when I got COVID, I got it one time, October, like a year and a half ago. And the one thing, I mean, everything tasted weird to me after I finally got my smell and taste back. The one thing that was really just killing me inside was the fact that peanut butter did not taste the same to me. And I have recently gotten my peanut butter taste back. So I feel really strongly about that. But you know what? I'm still not happy with China about all of it, about COVID, about my peanut situation, about all of it. But I don't know. Any thoughts on the allergies? Because I feel like Erin's right. Something changed, and all of a sudden we have so many more kids these days that are allergic to everything.
Yeah, again, I'm not a doctor, but I am really curious, and maybe this is another episode or offline or something else, but I am curious to hear, Erin, some of your theories about why in the blue state from the red state. Very interesting, because again, not a doctor, but I have had suspicions that some of these increases in allergies may be tied to psychological issues. And you know, it's just very curious. We live in a world. My kids are a little bit older. They're definitely older than yours, Lara. They're in their tweens. I have two tweens, and I noticed that now we seem to be living in this world of I'm calling it paranoid parenting. And I started noticing it when my girls were toddlers, where parents were literally terrified to do anything with their kids, send them outside to play, give them peanut butter to try, give it, you name it, terrified for fear of doing something wrong. And, I always thought when I first became a mom, yes, it's scary, but I always thought dumber people than me have done this. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like people have had babies, women have had babies for millions of years, thousands of years. You figure it out, you give things, you try things, you just go and you roll with it and you figure it out along the way. But now this paranoid parenting I do think it is causing some of these very strange and elevated ailments that we never saw anymore.
Yeah, well, and you kind of look at COVID, and I mean, I've talked about this on this show before, but whenever COVID, first happened and everybody was freaking out and the whole thing, it's 6 months later, I was trying to take my kids and get them outside, and we lived in New York at the time, and there I was going to a playground, and these parents would see me coming. Mind you, it is an outdoor playground. Maybe there would be one or two other kids at this playground, and then I would show up with mine. Now, I don't know if they panicked because maybe they knew who I was. I'm assuming it's because I showed up with two kids who were unmasked to play at a playground because I wasn't putting a mask on my kids, because my theory was always, I want my kids to still be exposed to germs, to bacteria, to viruses, because that's how they build an immune system. And you actually look now on the other end of COVID, and there are so many kids, I feel like, that have had really serious complications, these viral illnesses that are putting them in the hospital. Whereas prior to COVID, I think kids would probably quickly recover at home, stay home from school for a day, and then they would be fine. But, I don't think we'll know the long-term effects of what, all of it with COVID, but especially with that on the immune systems of our kids, because you're right. You can't isolate them. You can't keep them away from all the dangers. But I definitely felt like that was something that was really interesting that I saw happen during COVID. And I was like, all these kids are going to get really sick on the other side of it. And sure enough, they did. And I mean, knock on wood, mine seemed to fare okay. But it's more of, I agree, the parents, let's just let our kids, like, let them go outside, let them scrape their knees up, let them play, let them do all of that stuff. And apparently let them try peanut butter at around 4 or 6 months old. And that brings me to TikTok, talking about China. Donald Trump was right again. Remember when Donald Trump, Erin, told everybody when he was president that TikTok was a Chinese company and that they were spying on Americans and that you shouldn't install TikTok on your phones? I had TikTok installed on my phone, I'm going to say for maybe 3 days. And then my father-in-law came out and said, you need to take it off your phone, take it off your phone. I took it off my phone, and thank God, because he was right. The Department of Justice is investigating TikTok for spying not just on American citizens. They actually admitted, the Chinese company who owns TikTok, to also spying on journalists. We knew this when Donald Trump was in office, but here we are. I don't know.
Yeah, so ByteDance is the parent company of TikTok, and it's a Chinese national company, but you got to realize China doesn't operate like America. If the Chinese Communist Party wants to come in and go through ByteDance's data, you can't do anything about it. It's a communist country. And they try to say, oh, they have American subsidiaries. It's all a lie. They can get into your phones and spy on you. But the other issue that really bothers me is how they are programming TikTok's algorithms in America. They are pushing this trans agenda. They're pushing confusion. They are making kids do these silly dances. Every time I see a teenage girl walking around, she's doing like this.
Yes.
And I'm like, you look unwell. But if you look at what they're doing in TikTok in China, it is science competitions. It's mathematics competitions. Mm-hmm. They are making them do activities to enhance their brains and make them smarter. And they're limited in China how long they can go on the app each day. This is an intentional corruption of American children, and the Chinese Communist Party is laughing while our daughters and sons get dumber. I have friends back home in Philadelphia that their daughters are all over TikTok, and I tell them all the time, you are doing a disservice to your children, whether it's creating anxiety or hurting their brain capacity or teaching them things that they don't need to be learning at such a young age. This is not the way you want to have your children learn. This is not the information that they should be getting. Yeah, they're spying, but yeah, they're ruining our children's lives too.
Yeah, I mean, Jill, you look at where American education falls in the grand scheme of things around the world, and there's no doubt that we have done a huge disservice to the children of America throughout COVID, shutting schools down. Obviously, they are so far behind. We aren't doing standardized testing anymore. They're lowering the bar for everything to help kids pass. And what Erin is saying is right. I mean, China is laughing as much as they possibly can right now, because talk about being dumber. You were talking about this with your girls this morning. Here we are looking crazy, all these kids shooting these ridiculous TikTok videos. China is laughing all the way to the bank. All they want, as we know, is to become the world's superpower. And how else do you do it than by making an entire generation of our society here in America dumber and keeping them behind and putting them on these stupid TikTok videos? Meanwhile, you guys are educating your kids. You're getting them ahead. It's so obvious. And yet, I don't know if obviously my kids don't have phones. They won't for a long time. But I would never let my kids have TikTok on their phones, period. I hope it's gone by the time they get there. But what about your kids? You have tweens, right? Do they have phones?
I have tweens, and I am the most old-fashioned, old-school mama that you can think of, because my kids do not have phones.
Oh,
and I have told them.
Good for you.
Thank you. It's not easy. No, it's not easy, and it is very hard. And yes, I get told frequently, you're so mean, and then they forget about it, and we're, back to being best friends as mother and daughters. But it is obvious how much our standards are being lowered, not only in schools, but also socially and culturally with our kids. Just like Erin said, kids in other countries are learning educational things via their phones, and our children are doing stupid dances and contests that are quite frankly harmful to them on TikTok. And it's funny because this supposed, this ban that, the folks that are saying, oh, let's go ahead and try and ban TikTok now. It is such a double standard because years ago, President Trump suggested, hey, this is something dangerous, just like you mentioned, and everyone ignored it and no one paid attention. And now you have people from both sides of the aisle applauding and saying, hey, why don't we look at seriously banning it because it is harmful? And it's a double standard, and it's really frustrating and infuriating, and it's at the expense of our future and our kids.
Yeah. I'm going to say good for you for keeping your kids off of phones totally. It is so hard. Anyone I know who has a kid who's over the age of 10, I mean, probably over the age of 8 at that rate. All these kids want are phones because it's all their friends have, and they all want to get involved. But I mean, what do you say to your kids whenever I'm sure they're like, all of our friends have phones? Like, what advice would you give a parent out there who is in your place, who really doesn't want to get a phone for their kid? Because, why do these kids need phones, honestly, other than to probably get in trouble, get dumber, be indoctrinated and, be taken over by China? What do you say to people? Because I think it is so important and so amazing that you've been able to get kind of this far with your kids without having them.
It's hard. And I tell my kids, it's harsh, but this is what I say. I say, I don't care about anyone else's children as much as I care about you. And what I know about phones and what I know about how they are destructive and will damage your brain as you grow, I cannot in good conscience get you one right now because I take my job of parenting you very, very seriously. And that's what I tell them. And that's not to say they're never going to get a phone, because I do live in reality, and I do have girls that are social that want to chat with their friends in an appropriate way. And when it comes time, probably most likely in the next year or two, when I do take that leap and I get my oldest daughter the phone, it will be in a very controlled situation, and she's not going to have endless access to apps that are centered upon driving woke narratives in her face to confuse her and make her dumber. It is going to be a very controlled situation where I will have access to the passwords and to what app she has access to. And it will be a controlled situation where there will not be a phone allowed in her room at night. I mean, my kids have the iPad that they listen to music on, and it has the filters and the guards on and everything. But the rule that I have in my house right now is that when you want to use that iPad, when you want to listen to your music, when you want to look up your videos about how to braid hair, you got to ask me for permission. That iPad does not belong to them. It belongs to my husband and me. It is in our room. And if they want to use it, when they want to use it, they come, they ask, they check it out like a library book, they use it, and then they give it back.
It's so good. And Erin, I remember you telling me about something that parents can get to put on their phones and the iPads and stuff. What is it?
Everyone needs, and I don't work for them. I don't even know who they are. The Canopy app. Get the Canopy app. It's if you need help, they have a great customer service department. It's a good way to basically safeguard your children's iPads from, inappropriate content. And I use it religiously. And if my son wants permission to look something up on Safari, it sends me an alert, and I can accept it or deny it. It has all these extensive features and filters. And honestly, I now worry that he's getting older, that he goes to other people's houses and their parents don't have these safeguards on their iPads. Because with one click, one YouTube video can go south really quickly. Safari is a dangerous place. So, I really love the app. I don't know who created it, but I think we need to have schools that hold seminars for parents. Hey, this is what you can do, because a lot of people work and they're busy or whatever, but this app is amazing and it's worked really well for our family.
I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you both. I mean, what great advice for parents out there, and great information, because gosh, we're all in this fight together. I mean, we're doing this all for our kids. Let's face it, we're fighting for the future of our country for our kids, but we got to protect our kids right now while we can. Everything has kind of advanced and changed so rapidly. I think we're all trying to keep up. I think something like that, Erin, in a school would be great. I also think they need to make sure the parents understand all the different like lingo with the apps and stuff that kids are talking about in these text messages. Because a lot of times they're talking about things, parents can look through the text messages. They're like, oh, this is very benign. They're just talking in, different emojis and stuff. Excuse me. They are not benign. These all have hidden meanings, and I think parents need to stay aware and stay on top of all of it. So great stuff, ladies. I want to say thank you to Jill and Erin so much for joining us here on The Right View. To everybody at home, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow us for more. And until next time, we'll see you back here more for The Right View. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, this is the pillow that I want to sleep with. And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.
Ladies and gentlemen, this just in. We'll keep this a little secret between you and me and them and everybody. Whoa. The people that are actually at the tip of the spear, working directly with President Trump on a day-to-day basis to save this nation, they're all joining us on the Reawaken America tour. We have President Donald J. Trump's Chief of Staff, Kash Patel. We've got Peter Navarro's joined us on the tour. We have General Michael Flynn. We have Eric Trump. The people actually working at the tip of the spear with President Donald J. Trump to save America are joining us on the Reawaken America tour. Whoa. If word of this gets out, if the truth about election fraud, medical fraud, religious fraud, monetary fraud, and mainstream media gets out, it may just save the nation.
The Reawaken tour's coming to our place, hallelujah. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. Yeah, it's gonna be lit. Wide slam open.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, on May 12th and 13th, the Reawaken America Tour is coming to Miami, Florida, and to the beautiful Trump Doral Resort and Golf Course. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, The Reawaken America Tour is coming to Miami, Florida on May 12th and 13th. Get your sunscreen ready because General Flynn, Mike Lindell, Amanda Grace, Julie Green, Pastor Dave Scarlett, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Kash Patel, and Team America are taking the Reawaken America Tour to Trump Doral on May 12th and 13th. And then we're taking the God-fearing, revival-starting Reawaken America Tour into Sin City. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking the God-fearing Reawaken America Tour to Las Vegas, Nevada on August 25th and 26th. General Flynn and Team America will be taking the Reawaken America Tour to Las Vegas, Nevada. And the Patriots will be staying together at Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas, located at 2000 Fashion Show Drive, Las Vegas, Nevada, with zip code 89109 if you want to send them a letter. And yes, Alex Jones will be live and in person at the Reawaken America Tour, Las Vegas, Nevada. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, put it on your calendar. Get those tickets right now. August 25th and 26th. Eric Trump, Dr. Peter McCullough, Mel K, Dr. Stella Emanuel, Owen Schroyer, Alex Jones, Seth Holhouse, Pastor Mark Burns, Pastor Leon Benjamin. We're all taking the Reawaken America Tour to Las Vegas, Nevada, ladies and gentlemen. Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's going to be August 25th and 26th. Thus far on the Reawaken America Tour, we've featured Dr. Dave Martin, the late great Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, Charlie Kirk, Donna Clement Petruska, Sean Foyt, Karen Kingston, Chad Prather, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dr. Alan Keyes, Mickey Willis, Roger Stone, Dr. Richard Bartlett, and hundreds of patriotic speakers that you know, including Del Bigtree, Thomas Renz, Sidney Powell, Jim Caviezel, Donald J. Trump Jr., Peter Navarro, Klaus Schwab, Yuval Noah Harari, Bill Gates, and the godless globalists have their annual meeting called the World Economic Forum at Davos. But we that reject the Great Reset have the Reawaken America Tour coming to Miami, Florida, and coming to Las Vegas, Nevada. Get those tickets at time2freeamerica.com. That's time2freeamerica.com. We have scholarship pricing to make these events affordable for everybody. Every Reawaken America Tour event has sold out, so request those tickets today at time2freeamerica.com. That's time2freeamerica.com. Or for faster service, you can send me a personal text to 918-851-0102. That's 918-851-0102. And to be bilingually sensitive, that's 918-851-0102.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by the you know the thing.
We will shut you down. We will cite you, and if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period.
I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this.
But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
God actually spoke to me. He spoke about sacredness. He said to me, Kim, what I place in many, many people is sacred. And if anybody touches what is sacred to me, then it is the end for them. So what I've done in the United States of America is sacred. And there are people on every side that are trying to destroy what I deem sacred. And it's not going to happen.
This is the definition of criminal conspiracy, racketeering, and collusion. This is not a theory. This is evidence.
Because I have upheld this country to spread a light to the rest of the world. When you choose to go against the sacred thing that God puts into the very heart and the soil of this nation. This was sacred to God.
Now is the time to act.
This is exactly why I need some action from my people. Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be with you.